Alexander shuffled through the bustling city streets, his dark coat blending seamlessly with the twilight. A soft breeze carried the scent of rain, promising a cool respite from the day's heat. As a graphic designer, Alexander had always been drawn to the city's vibrant energy, its constant pulse of creativity. But tonight, as he made his way home, a sense of unease settled over him. It was a feeling he couldn't quite shake, a subtle dissonance that seemed to permeate the air. He glanced around, scanning the crowds for any sign of danger, but everything appeared normal. The city was alive with the usual noise: honking horns, distant sirens, and the murmur of countless conversations. Yet beneath the surface, there was a sense of something lurking just beyond the veil of human perception. Alexander had always been a bit of an outsider, a solitary figure who preferred the company of books and his own thoughts. As a child, he had often felt like he didn't quite fit in, a mismatched puzzle piece in a world that seemed designed for others. It was this sense of otherness that had drawn him to the world of vampires, a hidden society that existed on the fringes of human existence. Alexander's transformation had been a gradual one, a metamorphosis that had begun in his early teens. As he had grown older, he had discovered the secrets of his lineage, the ancient blood that flowed through his veins. The realization had been both terrifying and exhilarating, a revelation that had forever changed his understanding of himself and his place in the world. Now, as he walked through the city, a part of him yearned for the solitude of his apartment. There, he could shed the mask of normality and embrace his true nature. But another part of him craved the human experience, the thrill of living among mortals and witnessing the beauty and fragility of their existence. As he turned a corner, a sudden movement caught his eye. A woman was being accosted by a group of men, their voices raised in anger. Without hesitation, Alexander stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew that he could easily overpower the men, but he also knew that he had to be careful. If he was seen using his supernatural abilities, it could jeopardize his secret. With a calm voice, Alexander intervened, defusing the situation and sending the men scurrying away. The woman, visibly shaken, thanked him profusely. As he watched her walk away, a sense of satisfaction washed over him. He had done the right thing, protecting the innocent from harm. But he also knew that his actions had put him at risk. If the men were to discover his true nature, they could pose a serious threat to him and his loved ones. Olivia, the journalist, couldn't shake the image of Alexander's superhuman strength from her mind. Her curiosity piqued. She began to dig into his background, piecing together the puzzle of his life. The more she learned, the more she realized that there was something much deeper to his story than she had initially thought. Her articles had always focused on the human experience, but now she had stumbled upon a tale that would redefine reality for her readers. The elder, watching from the shadows, observed Alexander's actions with a critical eye. He had always been skeptical of Alexander's desire to assimilate into human society. The elder believed that their kind should remain hidden, feared, and powerful. The very essence of their existence depended on it. He had allowed Alexander's curiosity to flourish, hoping that he would eventually see the folly of his ways and return to the fold. But now, with a human knowing their secret, the elder feared that the delicate balance they had maintained might be at risk. As Olivia's investigation grew more intense, she found herself drawn to Alexander's apartment. The windows were illuminated with a soft, warm glow, a stark contrast to the cold, concrete jungle outside. She stood for a moment before reaching for the doorknob. The door clicked open and she stepped inside, her heart racing with excitement and trepidation. Inside, she found Alexander, surrounded by a clutter of art supplies and glowing computer screens. He looked up, surprised but not alarmed. There was something in his eyes that spoke of a world beyond her understanding. As they spoke, Olivia felt a strange connection to him, a bond that transcended the boundaries of species. Alexander, for his part, was torn between the desire to confide in her and the fear of what her knowledge could bring. Their conversation was a dance of words, a delicate interplay of truth and evasion. Olivia could feel the weight of his secret, a burden that he had carried for so long. As the night grew late, the rain began to fall outside, casting a rhythmic pattern on the windows. The air grew thick with anticipation, as if the very fabric of reality was about to be torn apart. Finally, unable to resist any longer, Alexander made his decision. He took Olivia's hand, leading her to the balcony. The city lights twinkled like distant stars, casting a soft glow on their faces. He took a deep breath, and then, with a look that was both terrified and hopeful, revealed his true nature. Olivia's eyes widened in shock, but instead of fear, she felt a strange fascination. Here was a creature of legend, standing before her, flesh and blood. The implications of her discovery were staggering, but she knew that she had stumbled upon a story that could change the world. The elder, sensing the shift in the air, knew that the time had come to act. He could not allow a human to threaten the very existence of his kind. Yet, as he approached Alexander's apartment, he felt a pang of doubt. Was it Alexander's choice that was the real threat, or was it the stubbornness of his own antiquated beliefs? The rain grew heavier, a symbol of the tumultuous times ahead. As the droplets kissed the pavement, they seemed to whisper secrets of the past and the future. The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge the very essence of what it meant to be a vampire in a world that was forever changing. Olivia stared at Alexander, the journalist in her grasping for the right words. Her mind raced with questions, each one more intriguing than the last. Yet, she found herself oddly calm, as if her skepticism had been a shield against the unbelievable, and now that it had been shattered, she could finally embrace the truth. "You're a vampire," she murmured, her voice a blend of awe and disbelief. Alexander nodded solemnly, his grip on her hand tightening. "I am," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "But I'm not like the ones you've read about in books or seen in movies. We've evolved. We live among you, not as predators, but as neighbors." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Olivia felt the gravity of the situation pressing down on her. This was not just a story. It was a revelation that could shake the very foundations of human understanding. But as she looked into Alexander's eyes, she saw the earnestness of his soul, the kindness that had driven him to save her that fateful night. The elder arrived, his presence announced by the sudden drop in temperature. His eyes bore into Alexander, a silent reprimand for his carelessness. The tension in the room grew palpable, a silent symphony of unspoken accusations and unspoken fears. Alexander knew he had crossed the line, but he also knew that there was no turning back. The elder spoke, his voice a blend of age and authority. "You have brought a human into our world, Alexander. This is a grave mistake." His gaze shifted to Olivia, assessing her, weighing her worth. "But perhaps there is still a way to ensure our secrets remain hidden." Alexander felt the weight of his ancestors' judgment, but he also felt a spark of rebellion. He had lived for centuries in the shadow of tradition, but now he had the chance to forge a new path. He looked at Olivia, her eyes wide with wonder and fear, and knew that he could not simply cast her aside to protect his own kind. The decision was made. Alexander stepped forward, placing himself between Olivia and the elder. "I won't let you harm her," he declared, his voice firm. "We need to find a way to coexist, to share our world with humans. It's the only way we can survive in the long run." The elder's expression grew cold, a storm brewing in his ancient eyes. "You dare to defy me?" he hissed. But Alexander did not flinch. He had seen the future in the pages of human history, and he knew that change was inevitable. Olivia took a step forward, her voice shaking with determination. "I won't be anyone's pawn," she said. "I'll tell the world your story, but it'll be on my terms. We can show them that you're not monsters, that there's more to you than just blood and fear." The elder's gaze softened just a fraction. "The world is not ready for our truth," he warned. "But perhaps you can show us a different way." The rain continued to fall, a gentle reminder that life, much like the world around them, was ever-changing. Alexander and Olivia stood united, the beginnings of a new alliance, a bridge between the darkness and the light. The story they were about to write together would be one of hope, of understanding, and of the power of love to conquer all. The elder studied them both, his ancient eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. After a long moment of silence, he spoke, his voice a low rumble. "Very well," he conceded. "You shall have your chance to prove that your way is the right one. But know this, if you fail, if you bring the wrath of the mortals upon us, you will answer to me." Alexander nodded, his resolve unwavering. He knew the risks, but he also knew that he could not live a lie any longer. With Olivia by his side, he was ready to face whatever the future held. Together, they would navigate the murky waters of human curiosity and vampire secrets. The days that followed were a whirlwind of planning and preparation. Alexander introduced Olivia to the members of his clandestine community, each one more diverse and fascinating than the last. They shared their stories, their fears, and their hopes for a future where they could live openly among humans. Olivia, for her part, worked tirelessly to craft a narrative that would not only expose the existence of vampires, but also endear them to the human race. It was a delicate balance, one that required her to delve deep into the heart of their world. She interviewed Alexander at length, learning about his life before the change, his struggle to adapt, and his hopes for the future. As the article took shape, the elder watched from the sidelines, his displeasure clear. Yet, there was something in the way Alexander and Olivia interacted that gave him pause. A bond had formed between them, something more profound than mere friendship or attraction. It was a bond of mutual respect, of shared humanity. Perhaps, the elder mused, there was more to this human than he had first thought. The night of the article's publication, the city held its breath. The elder had called a meeting of the vampire community, a gathering that had not been seen in centuries. The air was thick with anticipation, the whispers of the vampires a soft hiss in the darkness. Alexander stood at the podium, Olivia beside him, her hand in his. The article went live, and the world changed in an instant. The screens of their devices glowed with the words that would either unite or destroy them. They watched as the first reactions began to trickle in shock, wonder, fear, but also, surprisingly, acceptance. The room grew silent as they read the comments, the first tentative steps toward a new future. And in that moment, Alexander knew that he had made the right choice. The elder's eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw a glimmer of understanding, of the possibility of a world where vampires and humans could live together, not in fear, but in harmony. The storm outside had passed, leaving in its wake a cool, crisp air that seemed to invigorate the city. As they stepped out onto the balcony, the first rays of dawn kissed the horizon. It was a new day, the start of a new chapter in the long history of their kind.